All right. So I just heard the prompt that the recording has started. Happy Tuesday, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day to everyone. Uh, Kind of a weird weather experience here yesterday where it was warmish into coldish. I hope everybody um, got through all of that okay. I know there were some power outages here locally. I know some of that is folks are coming back online. So, again, hope everybody was safe in this weird March weather um, and switchover that we had. Got a fun agenda for you guys today for our user group meeting here on St. Patrick's Day. Got a little bit of green on my slides, so hopefully I'm not wearing any green. I'm in my little black pullover here to keep myself warm today, but certainly got some green on our slides in celebration of St. Patrick's Day. Let's dig into our agenda today. Always appreciate Kim coming in and getting us started and running the meeting for us behind the scenes. For those of you that are watching this recording, if you're able um, to join us live, Kim always kind of goes through a couple news and notes and asks some fun questions and really welcomes everybody to the meeting. So, check that out on our website. Get signed up for the live user group, and you get a chance to join. You get a little bit extra there, and certainly a warm welcome from Kim and the rest of the team. We're going to go through some. Got a couple cool things to go through. Some eVA best practices, some things we've noticed, and some stuff I'd like to talk about with you guys. Here in our March user group meeting, and then some demonstrations where I'm going to kind of go all over the place in eVA and demo some stuff, some from contracts to some public pages and things like that. Just some things I want to show everybody. It could be a reminder for some of you. Maybe it'll be new for some of you, but certainly I hope you find something valuable today that you can take back and use, or that you could pass on to your coworkers or staff from today's user group. Going ahead and digging in, I've these slides have been around probably going on 2 years at this point. Um, for those of you that are more interested in a deeper dive into our release management, Tony does a great job. Typically, couple days or a week or so after each of our monthly releases, Tony gets a very full, detailed list of release notes posted on the eVA homepage. Here's the direct link. If you guys, some of you guys really like to dig into all the different things we're doing and all sorts of updates and lots of your data warehouse and data retention and all sorts of interesting stuff. But if you have a mind to dig into that stuff, that's where those are located. And then, of course, our eVA tips. We have supplier and buyer tips. The link there is for the buyer tips. Always a handy place to go. Kind of get you into our training area and quick reference guide area as well. For all sorts of great resources on using eVA. So again, a slide that's been with us for a while. But let's dig into some best practices. I use the term best practices. This could also be for you a reminder, tips. You could have called this the eVA tips user group this time, maybe. But just a couple things as we've been working on stuff that I wanted to point out. Invoicing. Now, I'm going to kind of give you a general layout of invoices, and you might be in a position that you never see an invoice for the products and services that you're purchasing, which is fine. But for those of you that do, I've certainly had more exposure, Lord, at this point, going on 2 years myself, playing with the electronic invoicing module, that we've picked up on some things just in general from the invoicing process and the things that we're seeing from our suppliers that could be helpful. Now, again, you guys or this community that we're here today, and that I'm talking to you guys, we don't necessarily have a ton of influence over the invoices, but if we do, and if you get a chance to talk to your suppliers or you get a chance to communicate with them, there are a couple key data elements. And folks, this is if you're using eVA for electronic invoicing, or you're never going to use eVA for electronic invoicing, and you're going to get paper, or you have your own system or whatever. Just some things we've noticed coming in from our suppliers that could be really, really helpful. Just a couple notes here. When you get an invoice from a supplier, or you're talking to a new supplier who is excited about the business they've got and they're getting ready to invoice for a product or service they've delivered, a couple of things just to stress with them to get on those invoices. The eVA PO number, or whatever purchase order number. I would hope, if you're sitting here in an eVA user group meeting, that you're using eVA for your purchasing, so that eVA PO number is critical. Making sure they get their name on the invoice. I was stunned dealing with invoices where sometimes these things are turned in and it's not even clear who the supplier is. The supplier payment and remit to address. This is a biggie. If you're focusing on an electronic system, we got to make sure that payment address is in both of our enterprise systems, right? And for those of you that have a financial ERP, maybe a standalone ERP, you got to make sure that payment address is in there. So getting that on the invoice helps us potentially get that payment address into eVA, get it over to Cardinal, get it in our own ERP system if you have a standalone financial system. You're not Cardinal Direct Entry. Getting that on an invoice is very helpful. And kind of stressing to the suppliers to make sure if they're using eVA, if they're getting paid by Cardinal, to make sure it's updated kind of across the board. Your own agency information, the agency name, division, department being very clear, from a supplier perspective, who specifically that they're sending that invoice to. Now, for some of you guys that are in smaller agencies, you're like, whatever. But I always think about Department of Transportation, Department of Health, DGS, because we have multiple divisions, multiple departments within those divisions, DBHDS, DARS. Some of you larger organizations that are a little bit more segmented, you get an invoice and it just says DGS. Good luck. From my perspective, be clear about who it's to and where it's from. And again, just things to stress. Particularly, we are still adding hundreds of suppliers a week who are new to our system. And either they're getting new business or they're trying to win business. So when you get those opportunities to have outreach with those suppliers, just some of those things to stress. And then, as always, if you're like, Shane, I'm not listening to you. You are the manager of the eVA program. But if you get a chance, you could always check for your AP team with how they'd like you to handle that if you're noticing any discrepancy with invoices, or you're talking again to a new supplier who's new to state government or new to your agency for supplying goods and services. So again, just some best practices, just some thoughts that had been kicking around in our heads here as a team as we're working with various agencies on electronic invoicing. Our next area to focus on, and I'm going to actually demo this for you guys today, contracts. Contracts. Really appreciate particularly some of our friends in the executive branch. There has been a focus on this from our previous administration. Certainly, the usage and focus of this hasn't necessarily changed, but there's been an excellent uptick in contract records, contract data getting into the eVA system, and we really appreciate that. It's awesome. It makes our POs better. It makes our data better. You're more standardized when you're buying various services and line items, so the analytics get a little better. So again, really appreciate the uptick in contract usage. But I know it introduces some things because contracts have expiration dates. Line items on those contracts very often have expiration dates. We got to keep up with those contracts in the eVA system. So a couple of things that have popped into mind. I'm actually going to show you this one today just to kind of reinforce that. But there is a notification date field in the renewal schedule section of the header of a contract. Use that field, because what you can do, and you have to update it every time, you're doing an amendment or making a change, you need to make sure that date is updated. Um, but if that date is updated, a notice will be sent on the date entered on that field as a reminder of contract expiration. Now, here's the thing, it's not automated, it's not very smart. Um, Really, it's a field for your contract managers, for your procurement officers who are managing contracts. You can get a date in there, and then a reminder will go out to you that you've got an expiration coming up. So, again, manually enter field. There's not really any automation around it except for the notification. Um, but just a best practice to, if you're doing an amendment, if you're going in there to make a change where you're doing an amendment to a contract or you're doing a renewal, to look at that date field and pick a date, couple weeks, couple months before your expiration date, because the system then will send you an automated notice as a reminder about that, about your contract expiration date coming up. But again, it has to be touched every time. So I'm going to take you to that today when we get to the demo portion of today's meeting. So again, some contract stuff. Again, kind of staying on contracts and some things. We appreciate this as well. Lots of folks loading up contract catalog line items, which is awesome. Again, we feel like our team makes it easier to purchase. It kind of standardizes the purchases you're doing because you can have product IDs and supplier part numbers and all sorts of things that are standardized. And so, makes it easier to, again, do those analytics and compare like items and track spend on contracts and all of that really great stuff. But when we're needing to do updates, price changes, fixing something, and I know sometimes this can be difficult, especially for larger catalog loads, making sure we're verifying the line items that are being loaded. We are seeing too, particularly on catalog line item updates, that line items are being deleted. And that can really make change orders very difficult. Because if I place an item for a widget and then, I got a PO on that one, and then, that PO gets finalized and it's sitting there, and we do a catalog load and we delete that widget. When I go to do a change order, I don't have an item to reference, even if it's expired. Even if it's expired, I don't have an item to reference. So we need to be very careful about deleting line items. If a line needs to be replaced or it's no longer valid, there is a date on the line item that you can expire the line item. So just expire it, don't delete it. Again, that helps us keep referential data in place so that we don't have issues when we do our change orders. So we've been seeing a little bit of this out in the community, and it's just something I wanted to spread and kind of talk about from a contract perspective. Again, we know some of these things, these line item loads can be huge. And we don't have the staff or the resources to go through and verify every single line. So we get it that there's going to be times when these issues pop up. If they are, reach out to us. We'll help you out. Help you get through those issues. But just kind of just something to be conscious in the back of your mind around contract line item loads. And then one last thing. Actually, I got a couple more things on contracts. One last thing on this slide. Recs must be fully approved before contract expiration. So if you're have an end user or you yourself are shopping off contract and you're getting close to that expiration date, you got to get that rec in, but that rec needs to be fully approved and the purchase order generated before the contract expires. So absolutely something to be conscious of if you've got a contract expiration coming up and there's not going to be a renewal. Okay. If that expiration hits and you've still got a rec in process, when it goes to generate that PO, it's going to be like, this isn't valid. You got to get all those approvals knocked out before contract expiration and before that PO will be issued. So just another thing to keep in mind. And one last thing with contracts, and I know easier said than done, change orders. Um, Again, you guys might be like, "Ha, Shane, that's you're so silly to even say this," but if at all possible, minimize them. And I know easier said than done. I do have an example for you. We're seeing some change orders and people are fixing their allocations and things like that. If you're using electronic invoicing, you don't need to worry about fixing the allocations on the PO because you can fix them at the time of invoice and get those things synced up properly to your financial systems by if you need to make allocation adjustments on the invoice. Just something to keep in mind and maybe a little side benefit to invoicing. But again, if you need help, guidance, you've got questions about that, please reach out to us. And again, I know that one's easier said than done, but just something to keep in mind. Some other things, shifting out of the contract lens here. And these are some things I'm going to demo today. We are starting to see kind of across our communities the use of AI. And we've got some things in eVA where there's some artificial intelligence that we're going to be looking at as we get later in the year and some cool things that may be baked into eVA. But you might, in your own life, maybe when you're creating documents or summarizing things or asking questions, beginning to use tools like Chat GPT and Copilot. Well, one of the things I can do for you is it can help you pick NIGP codes. And I'm going to show you that real quick in eVA. That's I would argue, there's a lot of really fun things with artificial intelligence. There can be some dangerous things with artificial intelligence. I think this is a really safe one. And I'll let you guys have a look at that in my own environment. But really great tool for helping you select NIGP codes if you're struggling in that when you're doing non-catalog ordering. Now, again, shifting back to our contract discussion, if you're using contract catalogs or you're shopping from Punch Out and all that fun stuff, you don't have to worry about NIGP codes. So again, another benefit for using our catalogs to do your shopping and using our catalogs to build your recs. But I wanted to show you this and I'll demo that to you. And then a little pitch back to Kim here. And one of the great things that she does for us is supplier outreach. And she has a monthly schedule. I think that schedule is built out till June. That supplier outreach really talks our suppliers through, quite honestly, how to do business using eVA. So again, we were talking supplier earlier about invoicing and some of the best practices around that. Well, if you've got a new supplier or suppliers are contacting you and they're wanting to learn more about eVA, we've got some great outreach. They're free. The info's on the homepage. They can register. These classes are virtual instructor led. So Kim is there for all of these sessions, particularly to answer questions. And I'm going to show you where that schedule is so you can point your supplier community to those sessions to get help. Just making it very clear that we have that available, and we really, make sure you're directing your suppliers to those sessions. And Kim has been doing that for us for years and years, and she does an excellent job of that supplier outreach. So we'll look at that here in a second as well. And then one other cool note and a little project we started. For those of you who dig into those release notes that Tony puts out, or you really follow our monthly releases and you really dug into that, you might have read or heard, or I talked about it very briefly, that we allocated some space in eVA. This data gets stored on your purchase orders, comes in with these catalog line items, particularly our contract catalog line items, a market retail price. We've got space to store that information now. So not only, are we obviously have a space for the price that you're going to pay at your agency or, for a statewide contract or whatever it is. But we've also got space to capture market or retail price information that comes along with that. So we are doing a little pilot with this now that we've got this all set up and in our data warehouse, where our DPS team is reaching out to some of our larger statewide contract suppliers. We're very punch out focused right now. We tend to see the heaviest volume, so we're going to be compiling the most data from some of our punch outs. So think like the Grangers, Colonial Scientific, Supply Room, those types of suppliers, heavy volume, lots of transactions, lots of large product catalog as well. We are reaching out to them. They're beginning to update their catalogs to not only include the Commonwealth of Virginia price or the eVA price, but also, or the contract price, but also the market retail price. And what that does is that's going to give us the ability to do some, quite honestly, pretty basic reporting and analytics around cost savings and, kind of telling the story about the value of procurement. I think inherently talking to you guys, how much value you bring back to the Commonwealth of Virginia and your specific agency, competing, through your sourcing events and, getting really excellent prices on the products and services, really bringing that value to your agency. Well, collecting this data from our contracts, catalogs in particular, and then really anywhere that we have a catalog, we can collect this type of information. Really tells that positive story about the positive benefits of procurement with real data behind it. So again, we're kind of piloting this right now. This is available and out there, pretty simple stuff that you can pass on to your suppliers if you want them to send that market price information down. But more to come on this as we collect and get more data. We'll put some reports and some graphs and some fun stuff together. But it really can have an enterprise impact because it's something we can collect. Anytime we have a catalog, be it punch out or a hosted catalog, this field's available. And so your suppliers can be passing that retail and market price back to you. So excited to kind of move forward with this and begin to collect this type of data. It's just one more element that we can collect, to kind of show value around the procurement profession and what it means here in Virginia. And certainly, from an eVA perspective as well. So that's kind of a fun one there. All right. Let's shift in. We're going to do some demonstrations here. I'll give you a quick summary. I'm going to leave it up over here on the side of the screen to make sure I hit everything, but we're going to look at public contracts, the supplier outreach calendar and sign up. That's the thing that Kim does for us. Look at that Copilot example. I'm going to use Copilot. You can use ChatGPT as well. I have Copilot and it now official from an agency perspective. It's baked into my web browser. I have Copilot as an option. I'll show you what that looks like. The contract piece we talked about, the notification date field, kind of show you where that is as a reminder. Also, there's a House bill out there. Still some work, I'm pretty sure, needing to be done on that. We haven't really discussed the full impacts of that, but one of the things that House Bill 61 is talking about is subcontractor payments and SWAM plan functionality. I'm going to show you that in the contract module just to remind everybody of that. Again, lots more to come on that, but just kind of a precursor to that House bill moving forward. And I want to pop over into the contracts module and show you that. Sourcing. We're going to have a look. We've seen some usage in this area, and I just want to clarify some stuff and show you where it is. There is an internal discussion thread on sourcing projects and just kind of cover that. And then we've seen a lot of questions about one of our favorite reports, Report 203, that is the report that actually generates a view or print version of a purchase order. We've had to make some changes to that. I want to show you those changes and talk about it, and then talk about why we did that as well. So what I'm going to do real quick, I'm going to stop sharing because I'm going to pop over to a web browser. Give me just a sec because I'm going to leave my PowerPoint, that page up over here to the side as my notes to make sure I touch on everything today. And then I'm going to reshare, and I'm going to grab my web browser here. I'm going to share my web browser. All right, there we go. So I got my web browser. Move you guys over here from a camera perspective so I can see you. And let's do some demonstrations here in the last, 25 minutes or so of our meeting today. So one of the things, talking about the public contract search, we've had some folks, particularly those that don't have eVA access. If you go to contracts and sources, there's two links. There's an IT contract link that takes you over to VITA, and then the Commonwealth of Virginia contracts, which takes you to a area where you can search public contracts. Well, I can tell you the one we have here, it's got some limited functionality. If you have eVA access, I would always suggest, even if you're just a requisitioner, you have view access by logging into eVA to all contracts. Always suggest going that way to pull up contract information. But if you have users that need to go in and pull up contract data, I wanted to show you a link here under transparency. And this is an area where Kim tends to take suppliers. She takes them here more often than not to search not only for contracts, but you can search for orders and suppliers as well. I just wanted you guys to see this. And again, it's under the transparency link. So let me click on it here. That pulls up. I see I already had it pre-sorted. Let me reset it here. So if you pull that up on a clean page, it does save. It tends to save your last click if you're in the same browser session. It pulls up over the last, I think it's for purchase orders, I think it's the last 3 years, and then all active suppliers, and then all active contracts. But if you're looking for specific contracts, one of the things you can do is click on this. It filters that contract down to 8,254 active contracts that are in eVA. You have all sorts of other filters here you can use, like, the contracting entity, a specific supplier, the contract type, so you can apply additional filters. You can also use the keyword. So if I do uniforms here, give it a second to return results. It returns 15 results for me for uniform contracts from all over the state. Here's, there's a VDAX one, there's a DWR one, City of Hampton. We got some local government ones in there. There's a statewide contract there. There's DGS with their clothing, footwear, and accessories contract. So again, I think if you're looking for specific contracts, this is a great way to go in and do that. I know one of the questions I've seen is, well, how can I identify the DPS statewide contracts? So let me unclick uniforms here. I'll leave the contract there. And if I go DGS, there you go. I can narrow my results down just to the DPS specific contracts that are available out there. So again, a million ways you can cut and slice this. You can see the results come back pretty clearly. If you want to get more information on those contracts, in the action menu, there is a more info button. You can click on that. And then that'll take you into the contract record. Again, what's publicly available. You can see some information. I see Sandra Stacy is my contract officer. I can see my supplier. If I scroll down, I can get to all of the contract documents that are, again, publicly available. So just a great way to do a contract search. I know that other link is still out there. We're having some discussions about how to improve that area, maybe more news to come on that. But I did want to show you guys this area today just as another avenue for searching for contracts. Occasionally, and I had a specific way I was doing this, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it. Let me see if I can bring one up and have it fail on me. Occasionally, you will hit one. Oh, shoot, they're all coming up perfectly for me today. Occasionally, you will hit more info, and you'll get a message that says access denied or from this screen. That has happened because the end user has set that contract to private. Could be a mistake. Maybe they didn't mean to do it. If you're wondering about that or you need to reach out, you'll notice the contact information for the contract officer is there. So if you pull up one of these public contracts and you go to see more info about it and you get a message that you can't get any further, that contract has been set to private. It's a quick switch, and you can reach out to the contract officer and verify if private should be the setting. And I can show you that in a minute, what that looks like. And Kim, it looks like
I was like, let me jump in real quick. We did have
sure.
someone raise the question about searching by actual commodity code. So one of the ways I think it's best, and again, I touch this every week in talking with suppliers, is to use keyword. Commodity codes are subjective. So what gets
Yep.
used by you or your entity could be different than what's being used by another entity. The other issue with this specific tool is that it's very dynamic. So it's going to search deep within the data that is publicly available, and it's going to look for all instances of that string of number. So you would really end up having information come back to you that was really garbled. If you need to search for things by commodity code, you could have the option to build reports. You do have tools within your own buyer account that would allow you to search contracts that you have access to use. But when you're looking for maybe contracts that you can use from a cooperative perspective, I don't know, Shane, that contract type, if you wanted to highlight that, will show you how you can get to your mandatory, optional, and those types of things. So not focusing or moving away from commodity code, I think, is really more of a best practice that we want to try to shift how we've been doing things to maybe this new way of doing things, because the search is so much more dynamic than just putting
Yep.
in code. Search the entity, search the supplier. If you click on entity, then it will tell you what contracts that they've loaded, that they've made public, that are agency mandatory, that are contracts that are specific to them, that type of thing. So
And the example I use just to kind of, uniform there is a uniform commodity code and it has some various cuts and slices, but I just did a keyword search for uniform. Give it a second to let's see it. It'll tell you that it's waiting to sort. So it went down to 20 results, right? And then I have entity open. I can see 2 are optional statewide, 1's mandatory. Then I've got the various entities that have a uniform contract here. So again, just to reinforce what Kim says, very dynamic, very easy to cut and slice and do all that fun stuff.
And we're only as good as the information that's being loaded. So this is information that you as entities are loading into the system. So we know that we have limitations from that perspective of things that it may not represent all contracts and that type of thing. That was another question that came over in the Q&A that I know that Bree is addressing for that individual directly. But when you go again through eVA, through your buyer account, you're able to see what contracts you have available for you to purchase from. If you are a small purchase or department level purchaser, always go back to your procurement department and lean on them for them to guide you towards whatever your mandatory sources are, agency specific contracts that might be statewide use or cooperative that you can purchase from very seamlessly. And then one additional question that I think is worth just answering versus us typing out is about Copilot, because I know that Shane mentioned Copilot.
Mm-hmm.
You need to check with your IT to see
Oh,
what you're
absolutely.
authorized to use. We at
Absolutely.
our agency do have limited use of Copilot with some of its features. So that is something that has been opened up at least for some agencies, but check with your IT department and let them guide you towards what is accessible for you to use. So
Absolutely.
thanks so much, Shane.
Absolutely. Sure. Thank you. So, staying on a very Kim Pritchett themed user group today, remember I mentioned the supplier outreach. Go to eva.virginia.gov, have your supplier just scroll right under these two tabs, I buy or what Virginia buys, and there is a outreach events listing. You click on that and you get this great listing. Kim actually has a session tomorrow. There's a sign up so that you can register. Um, Notice she's already done workshop number 1 this month in March, but workshop 1 is really an introduction to selling to Virginia, and workshop 2 is really a deep dive about generating leads. And she's going to take you through all the tools, or take your suppliers through all the tools and all the various things they can do to identify business opportunities here in the Commonwealth, and really use eVA to the fullest.
And when you click on the registration link, it does give you a brief description about the session and what it will cover so that expectations can be set. I also have a flyer that I am happy to send to you if you'd like to send it out, but either digitally or if you have any type of outreach that helps to promote these workshops. These workshops are intended to get people familiar at a very high level about our rules of competition, knowing that they can vary depending on who's doing the purchasing, and get our suppliers, those businesses that are interested in selling to you and other government entities within the Commonwealth, get them familiar with our rules, how things work, and help them become more familiar with navigating the public facing features of our website, so that then they will feel more comfortable engaging and then in pointing them back to you as that purchaser if they have questions, need support, want to engage with you, that type of thing.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kim. And she's a wonderful host of those sessions too. All right, let's shift over to Copilot. And again, Kim's right. Kind of, you guys are already asking questions and beat me to the punch. You need to check and make sure that, these AI tools are something you can use. Again, it's kind of a new thing for us here at DGS. We've got this. We've been granted the ability to do that. We've got Chat GPT. You can see, or Chat GPT. Geez, Copilot kind of baked in to. You can see it there on my web browser. So, you can be in here doing a requisition. And I actually think I even put one out here. Let's see. Let me sort it. And I'm in UAT, folks, just to be clear. So there's my demo for the bug. And maybe I need to add a line item. You can grab, hit Copilot there. I'm a big football fan, so I need the NIGP equipment. Kind of churn for me here, and it'll say, oh, okay, yeah, 805 is the class. And it, gives me even a larger description, and then it starts giving me suggestions to try out. So again, you're in EVA. I can keep my little Copilot thing working there. I can go to commodity, and at the very least, I can hit the class and hit 805, and look at that. Boom, football equipment comes right up. All right. And, same thing. I think if I, if I do, how about uniforms, and it'll give me the class. Oh, the 200 series. Okay. And then it gives you some suggestions. So I can go 200, and I can see, there's shirts, there's all this, different kind of thing, work clothes. You start to see all these various options in here. Now, again, it's not perfect. It's not perfect. It's not, I don't know that we even have 286. Let's see. Oh, we do. Uniforms cotton. We actually, but you'll notice it's not quite the same, versions of NIGP. And if you read some of the notes here above, it's, they're standard, and these AI tools will talk to you a lot. And look at that. It even knows your active tab is a requisition page in EVA. Like it's really doing a lot of fantastic stuff for you. Um, but again, it's kind of helpful, particularly I've noticed with our installation, getting me into the right class. So it didn't give me 80548 for football equipment, but it said, hey, your class, your high level is 805. And the cool thing about our type ahead feature is you can do that. There's 200, and that gets you into clothing. Or you can type 805, and that gets you into sporting equipment, right? So it can get you into the right areas to hopefully help make that better. And the greatest thing is, look, I'm integrated. I'm doing it side by side. I don't even have to have dual screens. And I know a lot of you have multiple monitors and you can do all sorts of fun stuff, but I didn't even have to do that. I can do that all on one screen. So again, I thought it was interesting. I thought it was fun. From an artificial intelligence perspective, it is a super, I don't see any security issue with searching for commodity codes and just helping you make your requisitions better. And you know what? I didn't even try this, but I bet you, help me write an item. Let's see. It gets a little chatty with you there, as you can see, but there you go. Maybe there you go. Football, boom. There's control C. Whoops. Control. Oh, did it not? I thought it would copy. Maybe it doesn't copy directly. Oh, there it goes. Yeah. Hey, boom. I'm just done with my item description. Lots of cool things artificial intelligence can help you with. And again, it gets very chatty, highly specific, or audit readiness, and it does all sorts of cool stuff like that. Just something to keep in mind from an end user perspective if you're getting hung up on something. No, again, be very careful about what you put in here. No social security numbers, no tax IDs, things like that. But hey, I need to buy football equipment. Help me with a commodity code. Help me with my item description so that it's clean and clear. Help me, um, you know, what else could be in here? Help me with some additional comments, some terms. So just some things to keep in mind when you're playing around in here.
Can I chime in real quick?
Of course.
Keep in mind that this item description information is going to end up being public. So think of
Ah,
it that way. Whatever you would put on a billboard to represent to everyone how you spent our tax dollars, in
absolutely.
the more detail can be a good thing. In some cases, it just depends on what you want to make public and limit. But this information automatically is going to be translated to those tools that Shane already previewed under the public facing resources under transparency. So that line item description information is something that suppliers can search. And it's a way for them to connect with what opportunities have happened in the past, for them to do research about what we're paying and who we're engaging with or buying from. So it is a useful tool from that perspective, as well as just Joe Public going out and seeing where the tax dollars are going, which we know sometimes we even get FOIA requests around. So the better descriptions we can have, redacting any proprietary or private information, is going to be the best route to go with these descriptions.
Awesome. Thanks, Kim. All right, shifting over to contracts. And the notification date field is one thing I want to show you. And then we're going to look at expenditures, or sometimes you'll hear it called subcontractor payment collection, and then actual plan details being stored. And I just wanted to show you these areas. Again, more to come on the subcontractor payments and SWAM plan and all that fun stuff, more to come. But I just wanted to show you these areas that they're already in there. We have a couple agencies using particularly the subcontractor payment portion. But starting first, I've pulled up a contract again. Keep in mind, I'm in UAT. As much as I wish we had a Callaway golf contract statewide, we don't. But again, from a UAT perspective, giving you an idea here of a statewide contract that we have in place in my test environment. It's running for 5 years. If I go to the info tab, the field I'm talking about that will send you the notification, and I was bad because I didn't put anything in here. But if I was going to do an amendment, or every time you create a new contract, or every time you're making a change here, and I'll even start an amendment, I can come to this field and I can enter a notification date. And again, that notification date should be prior to or equal to the contract end date. All right. Because it'll send you a notice that you have an expiration coming up to help remind you. And again, it's not smart outside of sending you the notification. You, as the contract manager, as the procurement officer, are responsible for updating this date field. So if I want to be reminded, I think this ends in 2030. Let me just bump out 3 months just for kicks and grins. So if I want to have a reminder of an expiration in July, I would add that in as part of my renewals in this renewal schedule field, and you will get an email notice. Well, on that date, so on July 23rd, I'm going to get an email that says, hey, go check this contract. You have a potential expiration coming up. The renewal schedule can be added in here as well. Again, it's more informational. There's real no smarts to it. I just wanted to show you the notification date. I enjoy getting prompted to go in and renew stuff. So just something to look at. And again, make sure you update it each time you're doing any sort of versioning or amendment to your contract. So I'm just going to discard this draft for today. Say testing, and I'm going to confirm the discard here. There. So that gets us back to our contract there. Don't need to do any amendments. I wanted to show you real quick while we're here. I know we're starting to get up on time. An area. Oh, and I've already got some information entered here, which is great. So this is an area where you can right now, currently, if you want to record your subcontractors on each of your contracts. In this case, I've got an example of a supplier who is registered in eVA and a subcontractor who is not registered in eVA. And keep in mind, a lot of the subcontractors that you may have on your prime contracts or on the contract record itself may not be registered in eVA because they're always subs. They're never going to get a PO or a contract directly from us. So they may not ever register in eVA. So we give you a chance to record that in both spots. And then you can do, in this case, so I'm planning an amount for that first subcontractor of $10,000, and I'm planning a percentage of contract spend to that second sub, and kind of recording what my plan is. The tab right above is an expenditures tab. Really cool thing about this is on the supplier side, you can have your suppliers submit those expenditures directly to you and you would review them here. You can also add expenditures on behalf of a prime supplier or the contract holder here as well. All right, so you can enter them on behalf, but the best thing to do is to ask your suppliers to do that. And there is, it's very easy on the supplier side. We actually have a quick reference guide for that as well on that you can hand to your supplier to show them how to submit those subcontractor payments. So again, you probably over the next couple of weeks, couple of months, going to hear more information around this, particularly you guys in the executive branch. But I wanted to show you that this functionality, it's actually a carryover. It's always been there since we went to this new platform. This information, the subcontractor area where you're recording the subcontractors on a contract, and the payment collection area were carried over and were in the new platform when we went live back in November of 2022. So just kind of a reminder there. All right. And I know we're getting up on time. I got 2 whole minutes. Let me jog over to sourcing. I want to show you this real quick. I'm just going to pop in here. I'm in a sourcing project. You may have noticed there's a discussions area down here. Great area to use if you want to kind of record messages to individuals that are on your team that you set up here from a sourcing perspective. So you can send it to everybody. In this case, I'm the only responsible person. So you could send it, you could select, people that are in your team or all team members. I'll just say all. You can put a subject. You can, type really anything you want, and it's going to record that message as part of the sourcing project. So it's an area to send messages out to various team members and very formally record that as part of the sourcing project. Why I wanted to point this out, there is an external email link here. We are really suggesting that you do not use any external emails as part of this functionality. Not a good spot to do that in, through the tool. So just something to keep in mind. And then another area, you have a conversation thread where you can send messages to your team or to individual people. That's also attached to sourcing. And in the last minute, again, just wanted to show you that this was available and stress we're not big fans of the external email. I realize it's there, but strong suggestion to kind of stay away from that. But a great area to record messages that you want to have attached to the sourcing project in a more formal manner. And the last thing here is about report 203. And again, I know I'm right at 11 o'clock. I've eaten up all our time today. I want to talk about report 203 for those of you who use it. Appears I've been logged out. That figures it would dump my log out here when I'm trying to. Give me just a sec to get back in, folks. I'm sorry to keep everybody late. If you need to drop off, this will be on the recording. There we go. So report 203 is one of our more favorite reports, again, where you get a chance you can view and print orders. So if I open this report, you'll notice that I can select my entity, and I'll just pick, just for today, I'll pick, some of you probably don't have that many choices. I get all sorts. But the point is you would select your agency, and then you can run a specific order or specific rec. And you're going, whoa, I want to do more than just one order. Where's my date range? This report is a huge memory hog because it does generate individual PDFs for each order that you've done. So if you run it for a week, a month, 2 months, you might be generating hundreds, maybe even thousands of PDFs, and it sucks up a lot of resources. We understand there's a need to do that sometimes. So if you do need to do that, if you need to run for more than one transaction, on the report itself, if you click on it, you'll see there's the opportunity where you can actually schedule the report. And scheduling runs this report in an offline manner. So it's not sucking up all of the application resources. It will run it overnight. Run it. It kind of queues everything up, and it's a better use of our resources, and particularly for this report when we need to run for a certain length of time. So again, I just wanted to show you that we did remove that date option. You do need to schedule this report now. If for some reason you do not have scheduler, that is a role, a permission that can be given to you. Talk to your supervisor, talk to your procurement director or eVA lead, your security officer at your agency. That's something that, if it's deemed necessary and you don't have scheduler, can be given to you. So that was the last thing that I had today. I apologize for running over. I hope you found something valuable today. I appreciate everyone's time. And again, sorry for being a few minutes late. And on that note, I will thank everybody for joining us today. And we're looking forward to seeing you here over the next couple months. And hopefully, next time we talk, the weather's a lot warmer. So it got cold today for whatever reason. So
Thank
thank you
you all for
guys.
joining us. A playback of today's buyer user group meeting will be sent following the meeting and posted on our website. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. Stay warm.
Thanks, guys.